anyone interested in fig propagation. It is now early May 2025 and here in a 25-liter pot my wonderful variety Italian 258 is growing. The tree is already 3 years old and last summer it gave beautiful figs, which I described in one of my videos. I really liked its fruits and I decided to clone this variety and get another tree. The easiest way to do this is by air layering. I will use my own method and show you the great result at the end of the video. Previously I used Chinese balls from AliExpress for air layering. Both detachable halves are filled with substrate and snapped around the branch. But these balls have two serious drawbacks. Firstly, they are opaque and it's impossible to observe the formation of roots. And secondly, it's very difficult to achieve a tight fit of the ball to the branch. As a result, the ball often rotates around the branch and the roots are damaged. Now I use transparent plastic bags with a zip lock. It is inexpensive and very convenient. You can use different substrates to fill them. It is important that they are not too heavy and have a good moisture and air capacity. In this case, I will use coconut peat from briquettes. It always gives a good results. I fill 2 bags with the substrate, but not too tightly, so that the zip lock can close easily and securely. Now I need a sharp knife. Stepping back a little from the end of the package, I make 2 parallel cuts. The distance between them depends on the thickness of the selected branch. The thicker the branch, the greater the distance. Then I make 2 short transverse cuts and remove the strip of fill. The same with the second package. Done. Now we have 2 closed packages with longitudinal slits where the exposed substrate is visible. Now I choose a place on the branch. The roots grow especially actively in the node area, but it will be inconvenient to work too close to the trunk, so I will choose the next node for root formation. I will need tools: a sharp grafting knife, long plastic cable ties, a hormone for root formation. I usually use Hormonil powder, a brush for applying the hormone, pruning shears, and aluminium foil. I may need another additional tool, but this will be later. Let's get started. I remove dust and soil particles from the bark with a damp cloth. Then, below the node, I make a cut in the bark around the branch all the way to the wood. I make the second cut about 1.5 centimeters below the first. Now I connect both cuts and carefully push the bark apart with a knife. The bark comes off easily since the tree is intensively watered. Then I remove the strip of bark. Now the downward transport of nutrients will be interrupted, which will activate root formation. All that remains for me to do is to scrape off the cambium layer so that the wound does not heal too quickly. I wipe the bark with a damp cloth to help the powder stick. Then I use a brush to apply the hormone to the bark above the cut. Then I put the ties on the branch, but do not tighten them. I move them up and down so they do not interfere. Now the most important part. I place the bags on different sides of the branch. The middle of each bag should be slightly above the bark cut. Then I tighten the cable ties quite tightly and cut off the unnecessary ends. Done. The bags with the substrate are held tightly on the branch and do not rotate around it. When I was tightening the ties, it seemed to me that the substrate was not moist enough. So I used another tool, a 20 grams syringe with a needle filled with water. I added water to different parts of each bag. This technique can and sometimes should be used in the future. Sometimes the first roots that appear suck out all the moisture from the substrate, and the growth of the next roots is inhibited. Then I wrap the whole structure in aluminum foil. I use several layers of foil because the task is not only to protect the roots from sunlight, but also to avoid excessive heating of the substrate in the hot Israeli sun. Overheating of the substrate inhibits the formation of callus and prevents success. So, our operation is completed. I hope that this wonderful variety will give me a strong air layer. I will do the first control in 3 weeks, then weekly monitoring, and, if necessary, adding water to the substrate using a syringe. Now I will show on another variety how this method works. This is a new Israeli variety, Nahal Risisim, from the collection of Asaf Bashan. In one of my videos I already talked about this variety, its high yield and quality of figs. I decided to propagate this variety and make air layering. Let's remove the foil. Wow! Through the transparent wall of the bag you can see many strong roots located both above and below the cable ties. I can't see the situation in the second bag very well yet. Well, I'll cut off the branch and now we can evaluate the localization of the roots. Yes, there are roots in the second bag too, although they are less powerful. The cut branch is too long, and I will shorten it to a size suitable for young roots. Then I cut the plastic ties. Now you have to be very careful not to damage the young roots. I carefully cut the first bag. And here is the substrate with a characteristic shine. This is vermiculite. I carefully free the root ball from the remains of the bags, and now I can evaluate the roots obtained by this method without any interference. Yes, they are beautiful. The weather is hot now, and I want to plant the young fig in a pot without delay. In this case, I use multi-component soil mixture, the recipe for which I described in one of my videos. Done. Now the young plant is in its own new place. I'm sure that it will grow and develop perfectly. All that remains for me is to water it well and provide it with a label. That's all. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel, and together we will watch the growth and ripening of wonderful Israeli figs.